I promised myself I'd never crawl back to Saltview, but there I was, 24, pregnant, and clutching a frayed suitcase on a windswept corner where the town's only stoplight flickered. The bus groaned as it rolled away, its exhaust curling into the February twilight. Through the misted windows, I glimpsed the weathered dock, the neon flicker of the crab shack, and the faded "Saltview welcomes you" mural, peeling like old skin. The air bit with brine and damp moss, and the same warped sidewalks tripped up my steps. For a heartbeat, I was 15 again, dodging curfew with a stolen cigarette. But I wasn't. I was alone, 7 months pregnant, with my life stuffed into a bag and a heart bruised beyond repair. The driver had squinted at my swollen silhouette under my parka. "This your stop, hon?" I nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Yeah. It's home." He didn't push, just tipped his cap and left me in the gravel dust, the wind clawing at my scarf. I stood there, fingers numb, staring at the town I'd clawed my way out of. Saltview was my last resort, a place I'd fled for dreams of painting murals in San Francisco or teaching art in Denver. But 4 months ago, on a soggy November night, Julian, yes, that was his real name, had leaned across his cluttered desk and said, "This isn't my life, Mara." He'd pushed a wad of cash my way, money I burned in a parking lot fire pit. I left his loft with rain in my shoes and a ache in my chest that felt like drowning. My dad was gone before I was born. My mom passed when I was 9. My cousin Vera was my only kin, but we hadn't talked since I left for college. With my bank account empty and eviction papers taped to my door, pride was a ghost I couldn't summon. Vera's porch was dark when I dragged myself up the steps, the railing splintered under my grip. I knocked, waited, knocked harder. The door inched open, revealing her pinched face, older but just as cold. "Heard you were back," she said, eyes flicking to my belly. "Trouble follows you, doesn't it?" I begged for a corner, a blanket, a night. "I've got a business to run, Mara," she snapped. "A pregnant drifter doesn't fit the brand." I choked out, "We're blood." She smirked. "Blood doesn't pay bills." The door slammed. I stood there, shivering, fury sparking in my veins. I didn't cry. I walked, past her pristine mailbox, past the glow of her boutique sign, until my feet throbbed and the cold sank into my bones. I staggered to a squat house with a single lit window, its paint chipped but its chimney puffing smoke. I leaned on the fence, voice raw. "Please, anyone got a glass of water?" "I've got $1. A voice called back, calm but firm. "Keep your dollar, kid." The door swung open, revealing a woman with cropped white hair and a wool vest, her stance like someone who'd spent decades wrangling chaos. She studied me, her gaze catching the tear tracks I hadn't wiped. "You're not local," she said. I murmured. "Mara Tate. Used to live on Cove Lane. Vera Tate's cousin." She snorted. "Vera. Right." She opened the gate. "Get in here before you turn to ice." Her name was Ruth Callahan, a retired librarian who'd once made kids memorize Dewey Decimals like a drill sergeant. Her house hugged the cliffs, framed by salt-stunted oaks that smelled of frost and earth. Inside, it was warm, scented with sage and old leather. That night, I crashed in a room that smelled of dust and dried lavender, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was falling. Morning came with Ruth sliding a cup of bitter tea across the table. "If you're sticking around, you'll earn it. I don't rake leaves or scrub gutters anymore." "You up for it, with that belly?" I nodded. "I'm up." That week, I hitched a ride on the town's creaky shuttle to the community center and applied for a job. The clerk, all sharp lipstick and sharper glances, clocked my bump. "You're Vera's kin. Thought you were some big city artist." I squared my shoulders. "Mara Tate. Got my degree in fine arts. Need work." She tapped her nails. "Saltview Community School needs a temp art instructor for 5th grade. Starts Tuesday. Take it?" I said yes before her pen hit the desk. Tuesday, I faced a classroom of kids who eyed me like I was a stray dog. I wore my least faded dress and scrawled Ms. Tate on the chalkboard. A boy with a buzz cut piped up. "You got a baby in there?" The room held its breath. I grinned, tight. "Yep. Now, who knows what a still life is?" They pushed me hard, Snickers, crumpled sketches, defiance in tiny doses. I went home bone-tired, questioning everything, but Ruth was there with chili and a quip about kids being gremlins with crayons. She gave me tasks, sweeping the porch, pruning her sage plants, and said, "Work keeps the soul from fraying, Mara." One evening, I caught her by the hearth, clutching a worn photo of a young man in a pilot's jacket. "My nephew," she said softly. "Lost him to a crash. Barely 20. I sat with her, letting the quiet hold us. The next day, she handed me a key. "For when you're out late. Not that I'm your keeper." Weeks blurred. I taught, scrubbed floors, bought onesies from a thrift shop. The fear in my gut softened into something like trust. Then, I overheard teachers at the school. "That Tate girl, knocked up already. Saltview's a stray magnet." I kept walking, head high, into the night that smelled of kelp and frost. Ruth's window glowed, smoke rising like a signal. I was home. The blizzard hit in March, a beast that buried Saltview and killed the grid. I was weeks from my due date, praying for calm. Ruth served meatloaf, joking, "Eat double, Mara. That kid's hogging your lungs." We laughed, but at 2:47 a.m., pain tore through me, jagged, unstoppable. My water broke. I stumbled to Ruth's door, gasping. She didn't blink. "Let's roll." The storm held, cell service dead. Ruth fetched her neighbor, Gus, a grizzled ex-trucker with a pickup older than me. He growled, "I've hauled worse and worse. Buckle up." Contractions slammed me. Ruth gripped my hand, her voice a lifeline. "Breathe, Mara. You're fiercer than this gale." At the hospital, nurses whisked me to labor. 7 hours later, my son, Finn, arrived, small, loud, a fighter. I whispered, "Hey, little man. I'm your mom." I didn't cry until they took him for tests, leaving me in a sterile room. Through the wall, I heard a woman's wail, sharp, desperate. Her pain would soon tangle with mine. Finn returned, swaddled, latching like a pro. A nurse, Carla, whispered about the baby next door, a girl, premature, fading. Her dad had walked out, leaving a note saying he couldn't handle it. Her name was Lila. Her mom, Elise, sat vigil, broken. I asked to see her. Carla hesitated but took me to the NICU. Lila was a wisp, skin like gauze, breaths faint. I held her, and she latched, barely, but enough. Carla gasped. "She's feeding." 4 days, I nursed both, Finn, then Lila. Elise, fragile in a knit sweater, watched, her hands knotted. "You're keeping her alive," she said. I shook my head. "She's fighting for herself." When Finn and I left the hospital, Elise called. "Lila needs you." "Just for feedings." I went daily, Ruth minding Finn. By week's end, Lila was gaining. Elise showed up at Ruth's, Lila in her arms. "I'm alone," she said. I moved into her weathered flat by the pier, Finn and me in a spare room, Lila's crib in hers. We moved quietly, tending babies, building something unspoken. Summer bloomed. I worked part-time at the library, Finn and Lila growing sturdy. Elise and I shared late nights on her balcony, the sea whispering below. One night, she said, "You could have walked away." I smiled. "So could you." A letter came, Julian's scrawl. "I was wrong, Mara. I want to see my son." I didn't answer. Another arrived from Vera, softer, asking for coffee. I wrote, "Not yet. I'll call when I'm ready." I didn't send it. The words were enough. By fall, Elise gave me a pendant with Finn and Lila's initials. "We're family," she said. I kissed her cheek. We already were. My portfolio sold, a mural series about breaking and rebuilding. As I signed the deal, Finn babbled, Lila clapped, and Elise grinned. I wasn't just surviving. I was whole.